Welcome to Uncomplicating Success for Teachers, Helpers, and Givers. My name is Sarah Torpy. I am the host here of this podcast. And this week, we are going to talk about my number one strategy for uncomplicating success. For me, uncomplicating success really comes down to one thing, and that's what we're going to talk about this week. Before we hop in and get started, though, I want to first beg your forgiveness for my congested self. If you are in my Facebook group or in my world on LinkedIn or anywhere else, you know possibly that I am just getting over having my butt kicked by COVID. So I am still a little bit gunky and a little bit gross, and I am sorry in advance. But what I want to really make sure to do today on this episode of the podcast is introduce you to this way I'm going to be sharing, thinking about success and how to uncomplicate it over really today, but the next couple of months. Over the next couple of months in my Facebook group, which is also called Uncomplicating Success for Teachers, Helpers, and Givers, we are going to focus on this particular strategy and pieces of it. So essentially, my number one strategy for focusing on uncomplicating success comes down to focusing on what's in your control, which, for all intents and purposes, sounds super simple until we get to the part where you actually have to do that. And it is, a really heavy lift for a lot of people. I know it is for me sometimes, because if we're only focusing on what's in our control, what we're not focusing on is what other people are doing and how they're doing it. We are not necessarily looking around at the rest of the world. We're not comparing. We, as humans, are not always super great at staying in our own lanes and keeping ourselves just on, the track we're supposed to be on. And we're not always great at sort of just putting our heads down and doing things over and over and over again. And that's the trick to this. Focusing on what's in your control, as I've been thinking about them as controllables, is really about, staying in your lane, knowing what your lane is, keeping your heads down, and letting other people's things be other people's things. And that's the trick for this. So over the next couple of weeks and months, I'm going to be talking a lot about these controllables. And, the reason that this is what I think is the number one most effective way to uncomplicate success is because what it does is squarely put success in your control. When we're focusing only on things that are in our control and not the rest of the stuff, so much of the drama and the extra feelings and the comparing and the time we waste going like, is this the right way or is this the right way, are gone. Because if we pull all of that stuff out of the equation, things become really simple. It's like, okay, do I want to do it this way or do I want to do it that way? Do I like it when it works like this? Is this what I wanted the outcome of this action to be? It makes it very evidence-based success, and it makes it very clear and direct because we're not walking around other people's versions. We are not fighting through like, well, but what'll they think? We're not fighting our own selves and our own judgments of how we're doing things. It becomes really clean when we simply just are like, okay, this is the thing in my control. This is the thing I'm going to do. It takes so many steps out of the picture. And when we take out steps, when we simplify process, we uncomplicate things, and being successful is much easier in that way. So the way I think about these controllables is I think of them in two groups. I think there is a set of internal controllables, and I think there's a set of external controllables. And so when I think about internal controllables, these are the things that we work on as business owners. I have a set of them. They are things like trust and evaluation and celebration and presence and consistency in time and how we make decisions. They're like very much mindset kinds of things, but they are the kinds of things we can work on as business owners, and no one else out in the world needs to know that we're working on but us. But yet, they are the things as business owners that change the energy of the work we're doing. That are the things that, like, when people are like, oh gosh, like, I need to work with her. I want more of what she's doing, like that. Like, I can't quite put my finger on what's changed in her, but I know it's like, I need to know what she's been up to. Like, right? These internal controllables are the things that cause that. They are the things, when we are working on them internally ourselves, the energy we give off to the world becomes very different. It is what allows us to carry ourselves with confidence. It's what allows us to try the new things more effectively and fail more effectively and be like, all right, well, that wasn't in my control, so I'm just going to keep doing what's in my control. So that's one half of the equation. The other half of the equation are the externals. I think of them as the things that, like, are the things that uncomplicate how you connect, how you invite, how you ground yourself out in the world. So they are, value and pricing and marketing and the typical kinds of businessy things that we see out in the internet. It's really about focusing on our outward actions, our outward things that are in our control, and doing those things in the simplest way and fewest steps possible. So what we're going to think about over the next couple of months, I'm going to do an episode on the internal controllables in here in a couple of weeks, and the externals. We're going to dedicate time to them, but also in my Facebook group for the next couple of months, this is what we're really going to focus on. In October, we're going to focus on internal controllables. In November, we're going to focus on external controllables. And then in December, we're going to focus on sort of putting that all together into a whole plan for 2023. I think even just starting the work on internal controllables in October will make a difference in your business. Adding in the work on externals in November will make a difference in your business. They'll make a difference long before we get to 2023, but then we're going to like level up, plan a whole level so that you have a very simple, very clear approach going into the new year. So what I want, though, for you today, because it's still September, is to have some really simple strategies to start focusing on your controllables right now. So there are two that I think open up this conversation internally that you can start with. The first is to make a little T-chart in your notebook. In your T-chart, on one side, you're going to write mine. And on the other side, you're going to write not mine. And what you are going to do is you are going to think about all the things that you do, that you worry about, that you are thinking about doing, that you are stuck with, that you're trying to decide, all of the things. And you are going to figure out which ones are actually yours and in your control. That's the mine bucket. And the things that aren't. Like, what people think about your offer and whether or not they say yes is not yours. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to someone else. So you don't need to worry about that one. It's not in your control. But making the offer, showing up to the meeting, how you show up to the meeting, the confidence that you bring to the meeting, those are all yours, right? So really working through this, like, is it mine? Is it not mine? Starting to really think intentionally about what's in your control and not. That's one option. The other strategy that I think would be really useful is to think about one internal controllable. So here's the list again. Decision making, how you approach time, consistency, your presence, celebration, evaluation, and trust. Think about one of those areas and decide that for now, for this moment, you want to focus on that more effectively. So, like, if I was going to focus on evaluation, I would focus on each week, each day, maybe, like, what did I do today that was in my control? How did I take control? And how did I let go of things that were not in my control? If I'm thinking about trust, I might think about how I trusted my business today, how I trusted myself today, and where I, tried to force trust or did something that was sort of out of trust where I questioned it and I didn't, I'm trying to think of the words. My COVID brain still loses words some. If I'm thinking about consistency, it's like, okay, how have I shown up consistently in the things that I can control? And how am I still focusing time and energy on things that aren't mine? Like what's consistent and in my control? How am I using my time in ways that I can control? You can go through whichever area you want here, but just start thinking about one specific area right now and think about it on a daily basis. That's enough to start with. If you are not in my Facebook group, it is called, once again, Uncomplicating Business for Teachers, Helpers, and Givers. You should come play with us. October is really going to be important because we are going to focus on the mindset of control and of looking at what's in our control and what's not before we start getting on the external things, because we need that energy shift first. We all do. So we're going to start there. And then if you look at all this and you're like, yeah, I don't know I don't know which things are in my control and which things aren't. I don't, I don't know how to get out of the loop where I'm comparing. I don't know how to change how I structure my time to put more of it in my control. All of these things are things that I help people with through coaching. Right now, I'm in the process of enrolling small group coaching program members. We are doing that for another week and a half here. Groups start the week of October 10th. And we are going to spend a whole lot of time focusing on controllables in particular, so that we come to a place, each group member comes to a place where they have some really simple processes. They have a very focused strategy. They have a very clear, grounded, confident presence, and they're growing intentionally. The nice thing about this round of group coaching is we are going 5 months. We're starting in October. So we are going to do our plans for 2023 and then put them into action because we're going to go through March. So this is a really good opportunity, not just to make the plans and then stick them on a shelf and never use them, but to create the plans, test them, iterate them, get the feedback you need, implement them, and actually have them working in the new year. If you want to try that, please let's talk about it. And if you're interested in coaching one-on-one, that's also available. But if you're not in the group, today's the day, now's the time. Come join, and I will talk to you soon.